Hello.
Mr. Kealey.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
How the hell are you?
I'm learning, and I'm on this narrow path.
On a narrow path in the bush.
Yeah.
With goblins all around.
Yeah. Yeah. What's new with you?
Well, I was just checking out to see if Bell Canada let me get my mail today.
You said they were blocking your mail the other day?
They were blocking me, but after I posted the fact they were blocking me, they released it.
I don't understand. They do little things. Are they trying to just get you mad, or?
Well, I don't know if it's orders from head office or the interpretation somebody puts that I'm not on their side, and they try to annoy me. It doesn't really bother me. It as a matter of fact convinces me more and more that I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just what they do. What they do for a living.
How long have they been doing this to you for?
Well, it began probably 2004. We had been here for 3 years, and the people next door to us, which is fair distance on our side of the road, but maybe 500 yards or something, moved away, and a new family moved in, and from that point on, antennas went on their roof. Bell Canada spent 2 years upgrading the telephone lines between our house and theirs. I even went out on a number of occasions and suggested to the people from Bell Canada that they may want to rent a room from me since they were there all the time. And then I found out that the people who moved in next door included one of the biggest electrical contractors in Ottawa, and living with him was his son, who worked for the Simpatico division of Bell Canada. And our webmaster, who had basically copied my computer's entire knowledge base, including all the passwords and all of that stuff when he was doing the webmaster thing. When he left, he either sold it to Bell Canada or began working for them with the guy next door.
Oh, so he used you as like a promotion business up.
What they've done is basically changed me from being the owner of my own line to being a sub user on a line they own. So anything coming to me goes through them before it gets here. Anything going that I send out goes past them before it goes out. So they can call my mail. They can enter the archives on our site. They could change things in the archives. They can do all kinds of things. And one of the things they do is harass by either not allowing access to the mail or pulling the plug so that we get a power failure at this house only.
You can't even complain to people because only the ones you can complain to are the ones doing it.
Yeah, they're the ones doing it. So
you're in such a like a almost like a bind.
Yeah, and when we bought a truck, the insurance company doubled the insurance fee for us per year from what we were paying before was $700, and it became $1,520. And then the insurance company rejected the policy and offered a policy at $3,200 a year. So, there are connections between our version of the IRS, which is called Revenue Canada, which has Venus in the name there, Revenue. Revenue Canada, the insurance world, the communications world, the banking world, and I'm on a preferred list that every time I try to do something, they give me special rates at 2 or 3 times more expensive than anybody else. And you can't say, I'm going to leave one and go to the other. In the telephone world, there's no such thing. In the insurance business, they all basically get the same information, and it's political, not based upon any activity on our part. So it's something that I learned to live with, because that's my job. My job is to figure out who the crooks are and report that back. And everybody that does something to us get put on the list of having done something to us. And I wouldn't want to be in their place at some time in the future.
Yeah. Well, I seen that movie. One of the movies you were telling me about. Said 50 Dead Men Walking. But
Yeah.
I didn't see the Dead Men Walking because
the 50 Dead Men Walking.
Yeah, I seen that one, but I didn't see the other one. The 50 Dead Men Walking was about like a guy in Ireland, and he's basically working for IRA and the British government, like the government, and he's giving information to the government about the IRA. But then later on, and they find them out, and then they find out that one of the high members of the IRA is actually, of the government is actually a high member of the IRA.
Mm-hmm.
And so really, all I got from the movie was just, it's all the same. Those people who create disorder in society, they're all working. It's the same side.
Yeah.
And the bond is Freemasonry between all of them, I think.
Sure.
But
you extend it beyond the word Freemasonry to the more generic secret societies.
Yeah.
Because there are many that don't go under the name Freemasonry, Skull and Bones, P1, P2.
Yeah.
So you have to basically say the common denominator is secret societies whose origin was religion-based. Because they call it a system of morality.
Yeah, and every time you see anything about like a knighthood or chivalry, where they just put just morality, so is something underneath that. Yeah. I think people should be suspicious whenever you just see a group that just seems to want to go out of its way of just, telling people's morals and all.
The key most of the time is if they are basically getting promotion on radio and television for whatever side they are on, government or obstructionist to government in a military sense, like the IRA. They're on the same team. They're the mafia. It's like a division of government.
Well,
priests, mafia, government, corporate entities, secret societies, all are basically a cover for nuns, because the nuns are in charge. They got all the data.
Because they're number two, right?
And secular nuns are called nurses. And the word nurse is just the new ruse. That's the people who get access to DNA. Those are the people who can set up a baby factory, who can introduce them into adoption agencies, and can have them distributed into families throughout the community, so that the next 4 generations of that family will reflect the fact that one of the members was manufactured in a lab.
I think it would be pretty interesting to see, like, the mind frame of these people, like how they're socially engineered and raised.
Yeah, well, if they're raised in a Mason family, you know what kind of mindset they would have. And even if they are considered to be adopted children or outsiders, often of different races, many of the people who are adopted in that way would be the opposite race to the one doing the adoption. White family adopting an Asian or black, black family adopting an Asian or white, Asian adopting black.
Well,
and that's all to bring it down to the common denominator of mulatto.
And yes, I guess Brian sent it to you too, because he sent me a video with a track runner. Her name is Caster Semenya, and I heard you mention her last name in a post, but it was this lady. And when you look at the lady, I was watching the video. The lady,
if he sent a video, it would have been on the net, and I can't get anything off.
Well, I was watching a video on YouTube. This lady who runs track. You at first glance, or not even first glance, just looking at her, even the way she sounds, it's like a man.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to actually get her a test to see if she would.
That's the athlete from South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw her on the news, and she's obviously built like a middle linebacker.
That's a 10 right there, right?
No, well, it may be a 10. It's certainly not what they consider to be the most perfect model of what they're building. But they've gone through the process of building a number of identifiable samples before they get down to the one which they consider to be most perfect. And I suspect they would give that one a different number than 10.
So what number would you say Chelsea, Hillary's daughter?
She'd probably be a 9.
A 9? Really?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm thinking that those people in power would be all 10s.
Well, she's not in power. And remember, they put her up to be a replacement senator. She was rejected immediately by the power structure. So she's probably one of the ones they consider trial and error model. But she's got the right name. C is the name they give to that whole group of women. Hell is where they basically come from. hell is the core of the earth.
Yeah.
It's not some wooey place where go after you die as a whole person. It's just the big kettle in the middle that recombines DNA for all the failures out there and shoots it back up through the next explosion in a volcano. Never to be the same person as had re-entered. The DNA completely changed. Whereas those that end up being hijacked along the way and their DNA retained rather than allowed to work its way back down to the core world, they can be cloned. They can be reassembled. Parts of who they are can be assembled with other parts of other people to make a more task-specific individual.
Well, they still use that technique, like that method where they take the material from what the Moho got. Really? I thought that was like an old.
No, it's the way you do it. They gathered up billions of female eggs over the millennia and put them in storage so that they would in fact have the shell of ones they made in the future. And all of that material is in storage in Greenland under the ice, all put into beeswax for preservation.
No, I thought they used that, but I didn't think they use like how they, how basically like when everything that lives goes down to that layer. I thought you said they still use that layer with a Moho.
Well, that's the question that remains: is can the DNA that now makes up the Moho discontinuity be used as an intelligent power on its own? Of course, it's all being mixed together with other DNA to make basalt, and that would be a step beyond step of basically cloning individuals. Basically means making a copy, an exact copy, or manufacturing an individual by recombining different elements of different people into a single person.
Yeah, I remember on the internet a while ago, people were saying that Donald Rumsfeld looked like an exact copy of somebody that was in the Nazi regime in history. I think about that now.
Anybody that's in the military
and Karl Rove
has to have links to a system of control.
Yeah.
Whether the system of control is called communism or fascism or capitalism, they all have a common denominator, and that's imposing their will through force.
So you don't really focus. Do you focus on these men who are in positions of power, I think Cheney?
The reason I don't focus on men is that the system has made a judgment call that men should basically be like bees, drones, that they will have no decision-making activity. They will be included in the pseudo-hermaphrodite basically to provide a structure of stronger bones, bigger heart, bigger brain, bigger lungs, bigger kidneys, what have you. But they are not, in fact, doing any thinking. That responsibility is passed up the line. At first it was supposed to be the Neanderthaler medulla in the neck that would be in complete charge of the individual. But since they've decided to go remote control, the medulla basically just responds to the messages it receives through its communications network, TELUS, and the computer program that is basically listening in through the medulla on everything that's happening in that slave's life.
Do you think that's like a cellular level of computers linked to?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so like high tech.
Well, you're not dealing with somebody who got into computers yesterday. If they were in fact helping a hermaphrodite divide itself into genders in 80,000 BC, that would have been impossible without computers.
Yeah.
So they had to have gone that level, at least by 80,000 BC, and here we are 82,000 years later, and we expect that their computers would match ours.
Yeah, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's crazy because when you look at like the science fiction movies, there's one game, matter of fact, I think it was called Deus Ex something, but they showed this allegory like there's this massive computer and everybody's linked to it and they're all just willing the will.
That's what they've done. That's where you get Boaz and Joachim, the two computers that are beyond the moho discontinuity in the upper mantle of the earth. And the suggestion is that the moho discontinuity will be destroyed along with the rest of the surface of the earth with the passing of Alder Amin and the lighting of the coal seams underground through the collision caused by the particle accelerators.
Now, how long was Alder Amin supposed to be there for?
Well, right now we have Polaris, but in 12,000 BC it wasn't Polaris. Trying to think of the name. Vega was the star, and by 7,000 AD, we're supposed to have Alder Amin. Now, exactly what dates they change, I don't know. But the suggestion is that if Polaris has been there, say, since 10 or 11,000 BC, it will be there till 7,000. Then you're dealing with a time frame of 16,000 years, maybe 17,000 years, for a polar star to be predominant in the sky.
So, like, how many North Stars have we had?
Well, every precession
is a new one.
You're changing North Stars, so.
And it seems like creation made this the new North Star, Alder Amin, 20 times the luminosity of the sun, and made that like that for a reason, I guess. It seems like.
Well, if one considers that the same thing happens over and over again, in the past, when Alder Amin would approach the Earth, there would be one solution, and the solution is the same thing if what approaches the Earth cools it down as opposed to heats it up, and that's to take cover underground.
Yeah, but doing the exact opposite.
It explains why you got all these underground cities in Turkey, the Middle East, and all of that. Is when that happens, people ran underground. Now the computer has realized that was the avenue of escape. So the computer is now going to make sure that prior to the final arrival of Alder Amin, there is a nova that takes place on the surface of the Earth, which basically means there is no place to go under the Earth. The Earth's surface will basically be black water, quicksand. So if you eliminate the hiding place, then Alder Amin's next visit, this precession, will in fact be more damaging to life than it has been in the past.
So, like, if this computer wasn't going in the direction it was going, there could probably be some way we could, like, I don't know, try to work towards getting, I don't know, shipping people to another planet or something. Because it looks like nothing's going to be able to live and not on the surface of the planet, and there's not enough people. I mean, not enough space.
That's why I'm here, is basically to try to make the different parties to this conspiracy come to a common conclusion that whatever they've been told in the past, that they will survive the cleansing and be taken to the moho or whatever, is not true. That in fact no one will survive. Only the computers in the mantle of the Earth will survive because they are impervious on one side to water and on the other side to heat, and that's the mantle. And therefore it will have the programming that will allow it to jumpstart the new development of the planet, even if it has to wait 20,000, 30,000 years while the planet regenerates itself. That's peanuts.
Yeah.
And if the people who've been lied to realize that they're not going to be survivors either, then what's the purpose of their conspiracy?
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe, they'll have a change of heart. And with a change of heart and a working together of all of the elements, creation, guiding Neanderthalers and Valkyries and any real humans that might still exist, to work towards a common goal to prevent this from occurring would make sense. And I suggest that that's what we should be doing, and what we will be doing if creation allows us to survive.
Have you ever tried to communicate with these other people?
Yeah, the minute you put something on the net, it communicates with everybody.
Really? Do you really think, like, other sects?
You should see the hits on my site on a geographic basis. There isn't a place on Earth, including unknown and including Antarctica, that haven't come to my site.
Wow. So So I never knew that. Like, I thought they just, like, actually, you know what? That's
They're listening in on everything. So
I thought I thought that was just another system, it's like the Matrix. Like, one system, you know, people have this program. This is what they do. They monitor all the calls, and that's their job. But like, I'm saying, like, it's like a multi-layered.
Yeah, that exists as well. But there is always the what they call is the God password. It basically can enter any system.
And what people would have access to? Only a certain.
Well, I would suggest the computer.
Yeah.
In the mohole or beyond the mohole in the mantle has access to all of that, and it can basically direct Neanderthalers to have access. It can give permission to Valkyries to access. But it's the computer that's in charge. There's no more doubt about that.
Yeah, it's the computer that ultimately is in charge of everything. But
you know, there are 16 agencies that spy on the world from the U.S. Publicly known agencies. All of them have to report to a common structure, so that the information known by one is now known by all. If the common denominator chooses to inform the others.
Now,
what did they call it? The FISO court in the U.S. during...
Pfizer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was like a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was a Ford truck. F-150. But apparently they have this court where everybody has to go and ask permission in order to break the law. And, of course, you can't spy on people unless you break the law.
Yeah. But then those people who break the law, I've heard, I'm actually writing up a post right now, like, on the knights and stuff. And they say, like, once you become knighted or whatever, like, there's certain rules that just don't apply to you anymore. And I guess that will be the case.
That's what they tell them until they need a scapegoat. And then they charge them.
Oh.
It's like, telling the people with money in the U.S., put it in a Swiss bank. You'll have secrecy. Until such time as we decide that you won't have secrecy. And then we'll make a list and hand out the names. Or we'll do a secret investigation in who in baseball took drugs and keep everything secret until we don't feel like keeping it secret. And we'll make it public, and you thought you were doing it for a specific reason that would be kept secret, but your name is then in the headlines. They just lie all the time. It's a policy.
Yeah.
Telling the truth has nothing to do with what they do.
Yeah. I mean, they even tell the truth, though.
They'll tell you the truth until it's time to change the story.
Yep. It's great. They can tell the truth when they're lying.
They don't know the difference. For them, it all comes down to the means justify the end, and get out of our way. And if telling you one story makes you get out of their way, they'll tell you that story. And they'll use a different story if that first one didn't work. So,
doesn't it get you how they can actually get up there and just lie, like in front of billions of people, their little servants they have?
Well, that's what they do for a living. When you apparently don't love yourself, you want to control, and all I can say is I wouldn't want to be in their shoes
I say that
when
too.
my ship comes in.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I seen that post, another post you. It was a pretty interesting post. It was on the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned the Rothschild, how they like they're Judeans, you said,
Yeah.
and how they got their names, their surnames, like,
Yeah.
and the Judeans were like separated from everybody else.
Yeah.
Can you
The
hold
word Dean is there. It tells you exactly what it is. Dean, Neanderthaler.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But you said
they are the priesthood, and their religion is Zoroastrianism.
Yeah.
Zoro means ruse, and Astrianism means to the stars.
Yeah.
The plot to get us to the stars. Zoroastrianism. It's basically the secret religion of Judean priests who pretend, on the one hand, to be Jewish, but use the people who are Jewish as their pawns and abuse them if that brings them more power. And it basically use them to focus people's attention on Jewish people.
Now, can you differentiate? How can you just say, okay, this guy is Judean?
Well, a Judean, Dean, means the one with the knowledge. Jewish means they only wish they had the knowledge.
Oh, so you see basically by the actions and what?
Yeah. It's the priesthood.
It's another priesthood. Okay.
The priesthood that says, we have a book for the public. That book, depending on which religion you're dealing with, may be called the Torah, may be called the Bible, and it may be called the Quran, out of the three religions that were manufactured in the Middle East. But their priesthoods would have somebody teaching from those books, and then another group saying, hey, there's an insider group.
The
insider group has a different story.
Yep, they always have that. For every group, there's an inner group.
Yeah. So that insider story is basically Zoroastrianism. It's the story of the ruse.
To me, Zoroastrianism was just the common denominator for every religion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because the name says it. It's not what they say they are. It's the name says it. Ruse is Zorro.
Yeah.
R-O-O-Z. Because the thing is phonetic. And Aster is the stars.
Yeah.
So it's, here we are, stuck on Earth. We want to get up to the stars. How do we get there? Well, we got to create a secret society, and that secret society is going to be working on how we get everybody doing our will.
And that's what people like Bacon, right? They were...
Yeah, that was his job. Writing a common book for Protestants. But they were Protestants only to the masses. Internally, they're just a task-oriented division of Christianity. And their task orientation is linked to Freemasonry, but specifically linked to Eastern Star. So they're out there like the Vat Ican, Anglican. They're out to manufacture a more perfect slave.
You got like a really good understanding of like especially Christianity, and I guess you see.
Christianity is just another word for tax collectors.
Yeah, and I I understand the tax collecting toll gating system. It was basically, you said, in the Khyber Pass, and they changed it, and it became IRS. And I actually seen a post that you made a while ago. They basically like shifted and moved the power.
Why stand around in a pass on a cold night looking for a caravan coming through when you can take it to the end place and toll gate off of every activity? That's basically what they did. And their name in French and Latin is linked to revenu.
And that word Latin, right, is that just the word for the cover? Because that's what it, when I read it.
It's the land of milk and honey. Latin is the word lait in French. The new milk.
L-E-T.
L-A-I-T.
Oh, L-A-I-T.
It's milk in French.
Oh. And which one is French just like a more modern?
It's a more modern version of the language that was spoken in the Middle East.
French was spoken in the Middle East? No.
French came from Latin.
Yeah, okay.
Latin came from the languages of the Middle East.
Yeah, okay.
Aramaic was the name of the Middle Eastern language.
Yeah. Oh, okay. 'Cause I know somebody who's like looking into the Latin languages, and he's trying to show.
Aramaic is Aram, A-I-C, CIA, a male in secret societies.
And CIA, what was that short for? I thought it was short for acacia, that plant, or because you can see that on actually a lot of words.
Dealing with 3 letters in the word Cain.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is linked to either Abel.
Yeah, I noticed that. I do notice that. That's with the night is Cain. If you speak it out like Cain, night, and then you have.
Cain are the builders, and the Masons call themselves builders. Yeah. But ecclesiastic Freemasonry.
The valuable people.
They're the bosses who don't really want to work. Who want to use the work of the builders, but themselves, they're out for a good time. Go to Paris and participate in a whole bunch of debauchery, while at the same time at home you're preaching modesty and that shit.
Yeah, and you know what? I see this priesthood, like if you like analyze and do like some deep research, like just look at, like I did one look into like painters and artists, and there's this one painter, I think his name was Salvatore, something like that. He was from I think he was from the Pyrenees. I think that's where he was from. And one of the people that he was getting funded by was, when you look at him, the guy was wearing like a dress, old guy, and I think he was like really like, he was kind of like I guess he was homosexual, but I see like this. I guess that's what that classify as, that type of priesthood that can, or over that, but I don't know.
They don't necessarily need to be homosexual, although many are in priesthoods. But there are many who are just as easily able to rape women as they are little boys. They do what they want to do when they want to do it, no matter what rules they preach to other people. That's why they call the Pope the Pap, or the nipple. It's the place you go to feed on.
So he's just like a...
He's a big tit.
Yeah, he's just a big figurehead.
The figurehead of where you go for nurturing.
Mm. So what would you say about people like Aleister Crowley and stuff like that? Like, was he like
He has the word owl in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That means low.
Yeah.
So connected to down below. He has the word crow in there, which suggests the most intelligent bird is the crow. So that within his realm, he would have knowledge not shared with other people.
Yeah, he definitely
has Ali, basically artificially insemination, AI, two L's linked to the word hill, place on the hill. As I posted recently, it has a hill, has something to do with a type of earthquake structure underground that rather than slipping sideways, such as San Andreas Fault does slip sideways, and in its jerking of slipping sideways, it creates earthquakes. Well, there are localized earthquakes where the underground structure slips up and down rather than sideways. And the net result is you get a hill on the surface. Most of the hills wear down over the many thousands of years, and they're no longer visible as hills. But those hills that are visible are then used by people in the know to locate their homes, so that they overlook the areas around them. I was born in a section of Ottawa called Sandy Hill. So it tells you a little bit about in the old days what that region, that area of Ottawa was for. It was for the elites. But over time, they moved to other regions like Rock Cliff on the rock. Sandy Hill basically was allowed to deteriorate down to middle class environment.
What do you think they meant by that song by the Beatles, the Fool on the Hill? What are they talking about?
Hill is, Knob Hill. You're up there on top, and the links, the word fool is linked to the word loo. In the English language, a loo is a toilet. And a toilet brings you close to it. And since their entire raison d'etre is worked around the digestive system, and number one is pee and number two is caca, what they consider the good is shit. So create a lot of shit and you'll get people in trouble. That's why California starts with CA, and so does Canada.
And I understand why in California it seems I'm seeing links like the first few letters is Cali.
Yeah. Well, CA is the important part. CACA.
Yeah.
Top players in football in Europe. The second highest paid. His name is CACA. gypsies were taught when they broke into places to steal stuff to leave a message for the police by peeing at the door on the way out. So if the police came and they saw pee on the ground, it would become a dead file soon because they wouldn't waste time investigating. It was just another department of the government under the guise of gypsies who were stealing. And that's an accepted thing to do because it creates more police jobs and causes stress in the community. Both things are advantageous to the system.
Wow.
And they do it to this day. I mean, I get visitors here all the time who, just before they leave, say, do you mind if I pee outside the door?
You're like, no.
And I say, hey, there's a bathroom upstairs. You know, you can go there. No, that's fine. I want to do it here. No. Just go to the bathroom like everybody else.
Wow.
No. It's a ritual.
Oh, my God, man. What the fuck? Whoa, man. You got to, like, you must, that's kind of like, you got to kind of get paranoid, like, because you don't know, like, they have all these signs. And
why would anybody be paranoid? Paranoid suggests that there are individuals that are different. They're not different. The whole world is made up of people like that. So the oddballs are the real people in the world. That's why they use the word fools. We in the business of searching who rules the world are way beyond paranoia. Paranoia is impossible in our field. There are just too many participants.
The world is going in one direction. We just
the whole world's a stage, and most people are walking by the theater without reading what's on the board outside.
And we just happen to, I don't know, notice the script.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, this is all being choreographed.
Yeah.
Don't you see the lights up there?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's a more interesting life when you know what's going on.
Yeah. You
can at least investigate and learn. Ostriches with their head in the sand, they don't learn much.
Yeah.
They just hope they'll survive till next payday.
Yeah, that's what most people do. They just want to survive. And another thing, they just have these ideals, these hopes, ideals that's what guides people's lives. Like
they didn't invent those hopes. It was invented for them by religion and passed on by the media.
Yeah.
So they're just basically repeating what they have been told and hoping it's true.
And I think that's what Plato meant by the ideal world. Because that's what I get from when he talks about the intellectual world, ideal world. These are all different, like, realities that they make for people. These worlds for you to live in, but they're not the real world. But
the minute someone accepts the fact that we live in a controlled environment and we're just slaves from birth to death who do our own shopping, the next stage is to accept responsibility to do something about it. So, not wanting to do anything about anything, most people refuse to believe. That way they think it gets them off the hook. What it does is basically identify them as being useless, having no social redeeming value, and therefore to be thrown back in the pot and melted down the next time around, not allowed to pollute the earth. That's what nature is all about. Nature is a cleansing mechanism that gets rid of the useless trash and sends back a recombined DNA so that it might work itself into something useful the next time around. But people who think that they're escaping by not doing anything are just wrong. They're at the wrong end of the decision-making process. They are, in fact, exposing themselves to everything they are trying to escape. Those who seek answers and learn answers and bring that information back to creation when they remember with creation are, in fact, rewarded for that activity by being allowed to come back over and over again, each time a little wiser, a little stronger, and able to discern more and more. And at the end times, the decision-making will be creations. What do we do with this mess we're looking at? Is there a reason that should be considered for not getting rid of it? If there is, let us know. And if there isn't, well, let's move on.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and he was like, I don't get to talk to people like you all the time, but he's like, you have an old soul. He said I had an old soul.
Old soul, basically.
Old DNA. It's been using. I was just thinking, I was like, oh man, you don't know half of it, man. Yeah. But I see how you traveled around Canada and stuff. I've been thinking about I want to do something like that. I want to just travel around the world, and use that. I think that experience would be useful for me, especially when I get older, turn 40.
Everyone has to make a decision based on who they are, what their resources are, and what their abilities are, and decide how best to learn.
Well, I learn enough. It's not really hard for me to learn. Like at my job, a matter of fact, somebody just left a whole bunch of old video cassette tapes, and I looked at them, and it's all Disney movies, Dumbo, Kermit, and I just took 20 of them, and I'm like, this is going to be my homework assignment. This is all allegory.
Yeah. For
me, look, all doors go to heaven. All these, I'm just going to, I don't know, over the next 2 months or something, I'll just look at all these. Have you done that? You just sit there and watch a cartoon, old Disney cartoon?
No, I realized when I was a kid that there was a purpose other than being funny. Because they weren't really very funny.
Yeah.
And as I grew older and understood that there were secret societies and had to look for their methods of communications, obviously the thing that came to mind was Walt Disney. I worked at a lodge in Alberta for a couple of summers, and one of the guests was Walt Disney. And he wasn't a very nice person. And I basically came quickly to the conclusion that if a person is not a very nice person, would he all of a sudden be doing a task to be nice? And I said that's contradictory. Therefore, if he wasn't doing the task of making cartoons to be nice, he had to have an ulterior motive. And eventually I figured out that it was to brainwash kids right from the start.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about him. He was obsessive. and the guy was just totally screwed up person. But.
Totally nasty to the servants at the lodge. They're the people who took care of his every whim, and in the dining room with busboys and waitresses, and even, the captains of the dining room plus the management of the hotel. He treated everybody like shit.
Did you have any words with him? Or?
No, I was working in the kitchen washing dishes, so I didn't have to deal with him, but I heard many conversations when he was there between the staff, talking about, who he was and what he was doing, and be careful when you're around him. Not a nice person.
I've heard, have you ever seen somebody like that, like a famous, whatever, celebrity or whatever, who was actually like a genuine person?
I don't know anybody with money that I would consider to be nice.
Wow.
I think many of them put on an act, but they're really basket cases.
Yeah.
And when the day is finished, and they go hide either in their home or their cottage or whatever.
And they go to parties, but you see, like, there's a whole like underworld of over there.
The real person comes out after they basically are in hiding.
Yeah. 'Cause I see that, like, there are people like who are like famous, who I used to think who had some type of compassion, I don't know, for humanity or something, but then like one guy I used to he used to come on, his name was Charlie Sheen. He came on, he's like, oh, 9/11 inside job. I'm thinking, why is this guy even saying this? Because he'll be attacked and whatever. And then I see him on like, I see him on on the front page of this magazine my parents get, and I was like, wow, this guy. We're just out there to like lead the people on, I guess that's the allegory with in Ireland, the guy who let all the snakes out the city. The Pied Piper. But I guess that's the mentality of the people. They'll follow a celebrity because he's saying, oh, he's saying this, so it must be real. Must be worth it.
Well, there's a natural inclination to want to do the right thing, but as money is poured upon the people, they find that they don't trust people for who they are. They always think that they're after them for the money, and they end up surrounding themselves with security people. Security people are not the most logical types of people. They are always watching out. The environment of a wealthy person is not a nice environment. Being locked up all the time, worried about who's going to steal their money.
Yeah.
So it's one side feeds on the other. I just prefer to stay at a distance from all of that stuff and go back down to basics by dealing with the animals that were the models for human beings that came later.
Yeah.
At least when you're dealing with an animal, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
There's no hypocrisy in a goat that tries to screw its mother.
I don't know, but how about the ducks, though? They're hypocrites.
Yeah, the ducks are a model of hypocrisy, so they're not hypocritical about being hypocrites. They come out and prove it right away. You don't have to wait a month or two. They ingratiate themselves into your environment. No, they just come out, look at you in the face, walk around you, and attack you from the rear.
Yeah.
So nothing hypocritical that lasts more than a second or two.
Yeah. Yeah, I see, but I guess a lot of people are, but in their minds, and then being hypocritical in their mind, they always rationalize.
Yeah.
I guess the hypocrisy.
If you go up at a gate where there are turkeys, the turkeys will run out to greet you, and all they care about is, what do you got for me? What do you got for me? Gimme, gimme, gimme.
That's how these dogs I know, who, a friend of mine has these two dogs. They're like those little dogs that look like, I don't know, people compare them to sausages, little wiener-like dogs. Yeah. And that's the only time it'll always bark at me when I come in the house. But the only time it's nice to me is when it thinks I have food or something. Yeah. That's all it cares about.
That's all they care about.
At least up front, right?
Gimme. Whereas if you come into a place and there's a goat, the first thing the goat wants to do is run away. It's afraid of you. But if you hang around for a day or two, gets used to you being there, then it works its way around to just being a goat, going about doing goat business. Cats, same thing. Cats keep their distance until they know you, and then they figure out where the food comes from, and they treat you according to how well you've treated them.
So cats, you're saying are more related to how Clan Mother was. What would you say dogs are related more?
A dog purpose is really to fetch. So
the first slave, right?
Yeah. If you look at the way they were used in the past, they're basically used to go get something. Whether it's a duck that's been shot and is in the water, or whatever, they're fetchers by nature. They basically like to please, and when they please, they want a reward. So they basically learned that by doing what you want done, they'll get a reward in a secondary instance rather than a direct one-on-one.
Like my dog, it just wants to play.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. It really give him food, but I think
it's because it's not hungry.
Yeah.
If it didn't have food,
it'd be doing all types.
It would be doing the food thing first.
Yeah.
So, but if you leave food out for them all the time, then food becomes secondary because it's not important. It's always there.
They become spoiled like the humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's time for me to get to bed.
All right, Glenn. I might call you. Are you going to be doing a seminar tomorrow? Or?
I'm doing a seminar, and I have people coming in. Yes, I'm pretty well booked until mid-October. So I'm not going to let that determine my entire life, but I have to let it control most of my life, I guess.
Okay. All right.
So do what you can. Call when you can. The easiest time is about 8 o'clock at night for an hour, and then it's bedtime.
All right. I'll probably just send you emails or something.
Yeah. Play it by ear.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Talk to you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.